Scientists at NASA have determined that the Moon, Mars, and indeed the entire solar system are warming up. Presumably, we are not solely to blame for global warming, but also for the fact that the entire solar system is becoming guilty of man-made climate change. And it must be clearly said, luckily we have Joe Bondenbein in the USA, who clearly saves us from the Armageddon of the solar system. He states that it is regarding acknowledging the climate crisis for what it truly is. A lie. Oh no, sorry. An existential threat. The only existential threat, however, is clearly corrupt politicians, bought scientists, and obedient media. The existential threat of our era is the falsehoods of Big Pharma, Big Tech, and the big guy in the United States of America, Joe Biden, and his associates, of course, in Ukraine. This video will expose uncomfortable facts, address uncomfortable truths, but provide you with the opportunity to gain clarity and see things clearly. So, share the video now, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, and feel free to comment on what you think of all the fake stuff in the world.
I laughed at the beginning, but the world is so twisted that you almost have to laugh more. Today is tough, but of course, you have to stay tuned until the end. Hannes, today an exciting topic. On Tuesday, always about geopolitics, today about Germany. And it is possible that even energy lockdowns will come again, correct?
First, let's take a look at the solar system, and specifically to the evil under the sun, which apparently seems to be almost ubiquitous. And every single thing that transpires in real time right before our very eyes is either unbelievably evil or unbelievably stupid. And these aspects we want to look at today. We naturally start with the Sun Queens and the unbelievably evil, and that with the three power-hungry women of Europe. One could say that is almost like the Bible of contemporary times. The group of three black horsewomen who predict a major catastrophe for the remaining individuals. Black Rider number 1, the Black Zero, Christine Lagarde. The others print money for themselves. There would be no tomorrow, to then clearly find Putin guilty of inflation in the future. To her video player, which is short in length.
Don't let the bastards get you. And I know this is not very polite, this is not very proper language, but don't let the bastards get you means hang on with the work that you're doing and don't give up. Stand up.
The second Black Rider, a black politician, shakes from one military parade to another military parade, and then, as a Christian social, opens the borders of the unbearable and brings Sodom and Gomorrah into the German cities. She initiates the opening of the borders in her limitless delusion solely to provoke a chain reaction of violence in Germany, which can subsequently be cunningly attributed to the right-wing faction of the AfD. And the third Black Rider in the truest sense of the word in the alliance, who else could it be? Faiza Ushi, the Sun Queen of Europe. Never elected, but possessing a significant amount of power, similar to Papa Schwab or Uncle Joe Biden. And it must be clearly stated that if the boy is in Ukraine, then he demands a little more weapons from her, a little more glyphosate on the fields is demanded from us. Yes, then Faiza Ushi naturally agrees diligently. And we also made an exciting video on Sunday a week ago, and we talked about the glyphosate scandal in the European Union with the EU Commission acting alone, except for Italy. The European Union Commission unilaterally approves yet another extension of this glyphosate on our fields. And on the same day, a few hours after the broadcast of this video, we received a headline, namely that in the USA in Philadelphia, a court has sentenced Bayern to a payment of $2.25 billion because a man from Pennsylvania has sued for his illness. Indeed, the man fell ill after coming into contact with the herbicide containing glucosphene, and as a result, Bayer has also been convicted in relation to this matter. And as per Bayer, there are still 52,000 more lawsuits that are pending against Bayer in relation to this particular matter. Bayer can only hope that they will not be required to pay damages of a similar high amount in the future. Even the World Health Organization, the WHO, which is not appreciated by us, but even they state that the vaccine can most likely cause severe illnesses and should be taken seriously. And Bayer has even made a payment of 9.5 billion euros in advance to maintain some level of control over the lawsuit. But the EU Commission makes it possible. Thumbs up for the Pefe Sochi, which injects the syringes into our arms, injects the syringes into the fields and into the food, and is probably also very much in favor of coloring the sky nice and white. Thanks EU soldier, thanks EU Commission, we're already excited for the European Parliament elections. Of course, there will be a lot tighter changes at the ballot box. One thing also very exciting, of course. And indeed, if you observe the vaccination rate in Europe, it is quite clear, exception Italy. Italy is slightly ahead with a vaccination rate of over 90% during the times of COVID. And then it also makes sense that glyphosate does not need to be applied in Italy. The people have already voluntarily gotten themselves into the whole thing. Now many will say, coffee grounds reading, conspiracy theoretical babble. What nonsense. Yes, then let's just look at numbers from the mainstream media. Then let's look at the numbers, which the only source of truth wants to bring us. And thus, we are examining the sick leave days in Germany. And thus, throughout the decades, we have experienced a relatively consistent, gradually escalating sick leave record. In the graphic, years 2011-17 are identical. There are scarcely any changes. The pandemic erupts. We have not documented any rises in sick days, no sick leave, no growth has been observed. And then all of a sudden, the initiation of the vaccination process, and concurrently, the number of sick leave days is skyrocketing in Germany. They increase more than double in size, going from an average of 9.4 to 19.4 in magnitude. And we would have a similar picture with excess deaths, declining births, and many other things. But no, it's all just a conspiracy theory. It's just right-wing gibberish, and we don't even have to look at it. No chemdrills, all lies. The pharmaceutical lobby only cares about the health of all of us. The weapons lobby advocates for peace. The energy lobby supports the idea of free energy. And politics solely desires the best for us. And when it comes to politics, we quickly come to rely on Karol, the incumbent Chancellor Nehammer, as the leader of Austria. And indeed, he declared in his address on the state of the nation dramatically as befits Austria, namely the yes of the decision. Yes, the yes of the decision. He is, of course, absolutely right. In no year in the history of mankind have so many elections been held as in 2024. In no year of human history has apparently such a significant amount of decisions been made democratically as is currently allowed to be decided in this particular year. We should only comprehend one thing about it. It will be the year of decision. Carly is correct. It will not be decided at the ballot boxes. It will be decided in our heart and our mind. Therefore now, video and the facts about advantages, subscribe to the channel, make the bell, and feel free to comment on what you think of it. And when I say that the decision will be made in our hearts by our minds, I mean one thing, that we humans are neither right nor left, but the framework that is given to them, they step into a right corner or a left corner so that one can cleverly load onto each other. We all have a divine spark within, we all have a creative power within, and we all have a clear mind within, which we often can't see clearly due to media politics. However, we can all recollect once more with courage and determination to shape this period with both our hearts and minds. And someone who definitely, maybe with little heart and relatively little mind, but can clearly shape, is the Minister of Economy, Habeck of Germany. And so the transformation in Germany was initiated, the energy transition carried out, the entire pipelines blown up, the nuclear power plants shut down, and thus Germany saved from impoverishment. Yes, the course correction was successful, but one should only look ahead to where one is steering the ship ultimately at the end of the day when making a course correction. But Habeck and his colorful rainbow crew are likely to not care about that at the end of the day. The oil taps are turned off, the pipelines are shut down or exploded and the nuclear power plants were shut down. However, none of it matters as Germany has trustworthy partners. I don't mean the reliable partners who made the German economic miracle possible through cheap energy, who have supplied us with energy for decades, but of course I mean the reliable partners in the West, in the USA, across the transatlantic bridge to the Democratic Center, where the elite groups meet to shape the future together with Minister Habeck and his Anton Hofreiter. And we can clearly state we can depend on that.
Bravo, Germany. Want to break free from dependence on the USA.
Then President Biden comes and suddenly says he may have forgotten, but he clearly says no, we will not further expand the LNG, the liquefied natural gas. It is imperative that another reduction must be prohibited, And with that, Germany finds itself in a very, let's say, precarious situation. Because either you purchase the gas at exorbitant high prices and then proceed to purchase the liquefied gas from the United States, or you go without it. And I believe that Minister Habeck, as inexperienced as he is, will certainly decide to proceed without the orders. Because he has the analyses in front of him, we can display the graphic, we simply don't need the US liquefied gas. And thus, we continue to maintain Trinidad and Tobago, as well as Angola, as dependable partners and suppliers. With the economic outlook that Minister Habeck has, it is clear that we will be able to manage with it as well. Because if you subsequently relocate to an economic level of Trinidad and Tobago or Angola, you will also have a means of supporting yourself with the deliveries of liquefied gas from those countries. Similarly politically engaged as in other countries, there is a desire to worsen civil war-like situations between the right and the left, between the AfD and the left party, and perhaps soon between the AfD and the Erdogan party to destabilize the whole thing. One thing must be clear. The big companies, as announced by Investinbest by us over a year ago in the weekly update, that we will see in 2024 how the big well-known companies in Germany are disappearing closer and closer, the whole thing is taking an ominous course. For example, Ritzenhoff, Signer or KDW, all things that disappear in Germany thanks to the excellent economic and energy policy of our rulers. And then we must hold on to one thing at the conclusion of the day. The entirety of it is simply the commencement of a magnificent game. We have the Golden Triangle. When we look down to the Suez Canal, point 1, to Sudan and Yemen, point 2, under the Strait of Hormuz, then you have a wonderful triangle there, and this triangle will, if the USA deems it right, explode in the air. And then the main transport routes, whether for energy, for oil, for gas, but also for the movement of goods to and from Europe, will be blocked. And thus the economic level of Angola and Trinidad and Tobago will rapidly become a reality in Europe. And then Economy Minister Habeck should do what he does best at the end of the day, that is govern in a banana republic.
Hannes, Banana Republic, you pronounced it perfectly just by reading the names you mentioned. Lagarde, Merkel, von der Leyen, all caused massive imbalance in Europe, driving it further into imbalance. And of course, Minister of Economics Habeck, who doesn't understand the economy from front to back, because, as you rightly said, if the Americans now also fail with energy supply, the Russians have shut themselves off. Qatar is already threatening not to deliver any more energy, especially to Italy, when it comes to gas, if it comes to taking sides in the Israel conflict. Here, it's truly for Europe, one must say. For the next 2 to 3 years, an emergency is declared, energy supply collapses. However, we'll witness soaring energy prices, also recognize the potential it holds. As I said, if cycles don't sleep, and they won't next year, we can make Hannes the winner of the chaos.
And that's what we're clearly and explicitly about. We want to have many winners of upheaval, because then we can shape a future together. If we manage not to be crushed by this wave, by this political wave, by this media lie, but to free ourselves from it, to enter into the power of creation, then one thing will become true. And that is, we will all be winners in the upheaval. We will all bear the responsibility to shape, and then we will all be able to live in a new, better world. And then the actuality of Minister Habeck will not materialize, that Germany is experiencing a deterioration to the level of Trinidad and Tobago. Or, as we will explain during the upcoming Sunday, what he intends to do with Germany. Specifically, his plan is to transfer it to a European Union in order to dissolve individual states. Share the video now, subscribe, make the bell. See you on Thursday for an exciting market update.